Uh, we will start right away with the first speaker. Mr. Gunjal Ikir Munda is currently an assistant professor at the Central University in Jharkhand. As he says, that is his day job. At heart, he's a cultural activist who has traveled the world to share his culture and thoughts. Reading what he has written on the internet, I was struck by the simplicity of what he has to say. No jargon, no rhetoric, no hyperbole. The Adivasi culture has much to offer to world development. Both India and the world at large are making a big mistake in ignoring it. The Adivasi concept of collectivism, their identification with nature are what the world needs now. Watching some of the videos of Gunjal performing with the troops, I found my feet tapping to the energetic drum beats. Here's wishing that these drum beats lead the world forward as well. Gunjal will present Dance to Survive, Cultural Heritage and its Practices of a Tribal Community. Gunjal?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for such a kind introduction. I hope I am audible properly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just... Yep, so is my presentation visible?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I very much agree to the chair, that as a part of so-called minority culture, we generally face a dilemma as to which way should we go. I mean, as a youngster myself, it's kind of being trying to follow which world. Either it's one of the traditional philosophy of traditional world, another is this fast-paced modern world. So we, as the practitioners of this minority culture, I mean, we are in constant struggle to find the correct balance between these two. Somewhat in the similar lines, I have based my presentation, this whole presentation upon. And probably at the end of it, I mean, I'd be able to answer myself as to what should we do now. So I'll just begin with my presentation. Yeah. So just to set the premise of what I'll be talking about, I'll be talking about the region known as Jharkhand, which to my surprise, not many of the Indians themselves know where Jharkhand is actually. So pardon my simplicity or, pointing out to small things, but I mean, we belong to a state in eastern India. And this is where Jharkhand is. Probably not many know, but we separated from Bihar about 20 years ago. So, and yes, I mean, we are culturally different from Bihar. And so, I mean, we have a long history of, love and hate with each other. Yeah. If you look to the right, and that's the geographical map of Jharkhand, more importance than just the outline, because it's different from the rest of the region, like West Bengal or even Bihar, in sense that both the regions comprise totally of plain areas. While Jharkhand, it's mostly hills and not mountains, it's hills and plateaus. And that's probably where the distinct cultural identity and the other distinctness comes from. It's based on the difference in geography. Yeah. So the thing which I'm thinking about is very unique in Jharkhand. And I being a student of language and also teaching languages, I'm proud to say that there are at least 16 different languages being spoken, very much alive in. They belong not from a single language family, but three different language family. And one of the language families being the Austroasiatic language family. It's one of the unique language family in India. It's found mostly in central and central India. And to add on to it, there are 32 scheduled tribes here. So this is how diverse Jharkhand is. And though it's diverse, that's where a bit of a problem comes into play. When we talk about the history of this region, we were very much into demanding autonomy and a separate statehood. I mean, separate statehood is a part of a larger autonomy movement, which our people have been, demanding, have been fighting for since the last 150 or 200 years. But let me focus more upon the events which happened post-independence. The leaders of this region, they demanded for a separate state, distinct from Bihar or even West Bengal. But they were rejected because the idea at that time was that, in order to be recognized as a state, you need to have a common language being spoken all around. But as we have seen in the earlier slide, that there are many languages and many different cultures. So there wasn't any common point, common thread, which was actually connecting all these things. I mean, it seemed as there was no common thread. But it is actually, which in later days people did actually brought forth. The second problem with this region, as to getting an autonomy or getting a statehood, was the focus of the leaders only on political agitation as such. Doing dharna pradeshan, contesting elections, winning these many seats and showing to the central government that, look, people, we have these many MLAs and all those public support, on which basis we want a separate state, but their demand was not heeded. And there was definitely this lack of widespread cultural and intellectual movement. Though a political movement was going on in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the intellectual or the cultural movement, which should accompany any movement, was lacking. And I dare say that people probably didn't even have an idea as to what they'll do with this new state, or why they want a new state. Simply being a backward region of some other state wasn't justified enough to have a separate state. So that's where Nachi se Banchi comes in. Well, Nachi se Banchi, I mean, it's a Nagpuri slogan, which translates into dance to survive. And this is what the cultural reawakening movement, which was in the 80s, along with the Jharkhand movement, can be found in these dance to survive. And the whole philosophy of this slogan stems from Akhra. Now, I'd like to just tell what Akhra is actually. Akhra is actually a village dance ground. I mean, we call it a dance ground, but it's more like a community space in a village where people come and meet, discuss their problems, debate or whatever, and it's one of its peculiarities is that people come there and to dance in the festivals and perform rituals. So it's a community space, and this is the space where actually the tribalness or the values of being a tribal actually stems from. Involved in day-to-day activities of a village in Akhra, they somehow imbibe these values without even knowing it. For example, like participatory values, collectivism, consensus, equality, dignity of labor. I mean, these are the things which gets transferred from generation to generation through participating in Akhra. I'll just give you an example that the dances which the tribal community performs or indulges in, it's not it's not differentiated between a performer and an audience, where audience is just sitting back and then actually enjoying the show. It's a participatory nature, and you do whatever you know about. It's not that you have to be someone of a very high caliber musician or a very good singer to perform in an Akhra. You have to be just yourself to be there and participate, and people will accept you as you are. They don't demand you to sing at a particular pitch or play a particular rhythm. There are variations and changes according to seasons and festivals, but the overall framework is that people accept you as you are. And that's where the whole concept of tribal values comes into play. And Dance to Survive, the slogan actually wanted to, the leaders wanted to bring these values, which were so deep in this, in the urban fold, where actually the whole media attention is, and where actually we can say that the whole Jharkhand movement was being played. The people who had all the first generation tribals who had actually got educated and were now moving to the cities. At one side, they were ashamed of their heritage, because this cultural stigmatization was being played, where being shown as barbaric. Even now they are being being shown in the mainstream media. But at that time, probably the pressure was too high. But this cultural reawakening movement tried to bring those core values of the village, of the tribal villages of tribal Akhra, and accordingly, the leaders then, they thought that how can we bring these values in the limelight? So they themselves, because since they were the first generation tribals who had moved to the cities, they were good performers, and so they used to perform these cultural items, performances everywhere. In any occasion which they could get hold of, to their presence in the whole arena. And accordingly, new processions were being taken out, and almost all the small festivals which only the village folk used to celebrate, now it was the people are trying to consolidate it, and then try to get a huge mass gathering, and then bring all the tribal elements, all the tribal symbols in the mainstream media. Along with the literary activities was being promoted even in the universities. Tribal languages were trying to be included in the syllabus, and all the tribal students were being encouraged to take up these courses. So in short, the leaders then were trying to bring the values from the villages to the cities, to the mainstream, so the so-called mainstream, so that a common thread could be formed, where different cultures, different tribes, different languages could be brought into one. And the peculiarity about this thing was that Akhra, the concept of Akhra was prevalent in all the tribes, even among the non-tribals, though they had a different language, different songs, different rituals. The concept of getting together at one place and then discussing their problems, discussing their sorrows, enjoying, was prevalent in the whole of the Jharkhand area, the Jharkhand region. So that's where, these values could actually bring together different peoples at one platform. and we did get the state of Jharkhand in the year 2000. But to what did we actually get from the state of Jharkhand, apart from getting a separate political identity? The present situation in Jharkhand is that the tribal languages in academia, which the people earlier had so emphasized upon, the tribal languages did get a big impetus to expand its influence among the city tribals. And it still has the charm. I mean, as far as I can remember, earlier only 10 or 20 people used to get themselves enrolled in these courses, but now at least, I mean, 100 students are taking admission in each of these languages. I mean, there are about 9 languages being taught in the University of Jharkhand. And yes, there is abundance of cultural performances, and you can almost see all the programs, whether be it political or intellectual or anything. They start with a tribal performance, and there are tribal performances in the middle, and there's lots of space being given to tribal performances in these programs. But the thing is that though the tribal performances are being given importance, they are still looked down upon and considered to be a part of a minority culture, where they don't have anything special of their own. Where people use simple techniques, simple steps, simple beats, to express themselves. So it's not held in such a high standard when you compare it with the classical performances. And also, this somehow has crept into the tribals too. That that our performances are being shown, are being performed in each and every record. So it's getting less dignified. And the slogan "Dance to Survive" is actually, they think that people are taking it in a literal sense, and definitely, if we see that people are just displaying the performance without thinking about the political connection, or without emphasizing their self-assertion. Now it's like people are more into showing off their tribalness than doing a certain performance for themselves, which the case used to be when the Jharkhand movement was on. So, in this situation, what are the possible ways in which we can address these things? As being a performer myself, I am at times, stuck between the question that for whom am I performing? Is it for me myself, or is it for me showing other people, what actually tribal culture is? So at sometimes I do also feel, it's like, trying to sell your own culture to other people, which I think is definitely happening, because more and more people who are city-based and have little to no connection with the roots of this culture are involved in these cultural activities. And definitely, since they are in urban space, then the media limelight is more on them. So the whole cultural expression thing could be more of a practice and less of a display. When I say more of practice and less of a display, I mean to say that, we, the city folks or the youngsters who have taken up this cultural activity, or this, we have joined this cultural reawakening movement, which is still continuing till now. we have to go back to the villages. It's not that, the things which have been handed to us by the first generation of tribals who had moved to the cities, it continues till now. We have to relearn those values, go back among the people, and actually try to learn those core values which actually have sprung up from these cultural performances, which actually are the backbone of these cultural performances. And also, since most of the people here in this webinar, would someday or the other be visiting the tribal places, try to learn about their culture and other things. The thing is that any performance, a culture performance, should be actually appreciated for their cultural value rather than for their glitter or for the entertainment purpose which they have. So I urge the audience here that whenever you visit a tribal hamlet or any place, try to understand the performance in their cultural space, which for some, it might look that shiny, and it might have less of an entertaining value, but for a tribal, his culture and the performance which is embedded in it, it's of the utmost significance. And by your attitude of valuing a cultural performance in the context of the tribe's culture, would actually encourage more and more tribal to actually be rooted to their own culture and not focus on the glamorous aspect of showing things off. So with this, I think I'd end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gunjal. Johar.
Johar.